Hey guys, this is God of Politics. I'm welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord. There's a link down in the description, and join the mock-of that is in the Discord. We're doing a lot of interesting things in there right now, so make sure you join the Discord and sign up for that. Just to give an update on the Kentucky primary, we can see Charles Booker here has actually taken a lead in the primary. Here we see results from Louisville started to come in, which is the largest county, Jefferson County, and they're going 80 to 15, 80 to 16 for Charles Booker, which has led him to take the lead by 3.5 percentage points. Also, Lexington has come in 72 to 23 for Booker. So this is going to be hard for McGrath to overcome. We'll see how the mail-in ballots do for either McGrath or Charles Booker. But right now, I'd say Charles Booker is favored to actually win this primary here. But that's just a short update on that. But I'm going to be talking about some new polls here that have shown Trump plummeting in virtually every state and national polls too. First of all is the national polls showing Biden up by 10 percentage points here on the average, not just one or two polls, but on the average. We see the New York Times Siena poll that came out here today, yesterday, that showed Biden up by 14 points here, which was a huge result for him because, if you don't remember, New York Times was actually quite an accurate pollster in 2016. In Florida, it had Trump winning. In North Carolina, it had it tied, which is about 3 points off. And the national poll was 1 point off. And it's a very highly rated pollster. And they have Biden winning by 14. A lot of these polls are very good for Donald Trump, very good for Joe Biden, but they're also very good pollsters in general. And the average has Biden up by 10 percentage points, 50.6 to 40.6. And one of the most interesting things that we're seeing is when Joe Biden is up, he may be up a similar or even less amount to Hillary Clinton, but in terms of the actual amount of vote he gets, he's up by more. So as you can see right now, he's up by 10% here. But if you make it, you do the undecided vote, right? So you have 91.2% of people have decided between Biden or Trump there. That leaves, maybe 2 to 3% for third party vote. Then you really only have 6% of the undecided vote. And even if all 6% went to Donald Trump, that would mean Biden would still win by 4 points, right? And if Joe Biden wins the popular vote by 4 points, he'll likely end up winning the entire election. So this is quite an interesting result here. That's for the national polls. If we go to some of these individual state polls here, we can see the average is on the right side of here. First, the state of Florida, state Donald Trump won by 1.5 percentage points here. The New York Times poll came out today showing that Biden was winning by 6 points. The average now has it at Biden plus 6.2 here, which is a crazy result because, really nobody has ever been winning by 6.2 percentage points. And again, these are early polls, but, it's very telling. If we want to go back to August, Hillary Clinton was winning by 4 points at some points. This time in 2016, she was winning by, 3 points, but really nobody ever won. Nobody was ever winning by very much. Hillary Clinton was winning by around 4 percentage points here, but then she ended up plummeting. But one of the things we've also seen is that Joe Biden's been much more stable compared to Hillary Clinton here. So if we go back to the 2016 map, we can even go to the 2012 map here, which showed showed Romney winning by 1.5 percentage points here. Obama ended up winning the state. So that's actually quite an interesting result as well there. If we want to go to some other states here, we just went through Florida there. We can go to Pennsylvania, for example, Joe Biden's home state or state he was born in. Again, Biden's up 6.3 percentage points here. If we want to go to the next state, we can see the next state is the state of Wisconsin, which, the polls were most often Wisconsin. 6.5, they had Hillary Clinton winning by Donald Trump, ended up winning by 0.9. Biden's currently winning by 8. So according to that same logic, Joe Biden would still end up winning the state of Wisconsin. We've had some very interesting polling here. Marquette is a more left-leaning pollster in terms of their results, but Joe Biden's been gaining in their poll compared to March and April, which is the interesting thing. The New York Times poll is what really brought up the average, which had Biden up by 11 points here. If we want to go to the next state, which is the state of North Carolina, Biden's actually up by 1.4 percentage points here because we had the New York Times poll that shouldn't up by 9. And, we'll talk about this in a second. The person who did the poll acknowledged that this may be a little too much. But, it still does show that this is the state that the suburban trends are actually going to mean something. And in the current average, Joe Biden is up by 1.4 percentage points here. And, the polls could easily be off. That's completely within the margin of error for Donald Trump to still win the state. But it means that he has to put a lot of resources there, and the state's still going to matter. And as for Arizona, the last state here, we can see Joe Biden is up by 4 percentage points here. That New York Times Siena poll came out showing Biden winning by 7 points here. So this is also quite an interesting result here. Biden is up 4% in the average. These polls were pretty much spot on in 2016. If we want to go to the Senate race, for example, you can see in the Senate race, Mark Kelly's up by 11.6 percentage points. Martha McSally is pretty much toast at this point. I really don't think there's much chance for her to win at all. If we want to go to the North Carolina Senate race too, if we can find the Senate race here, if we can go to the Senate race, we can see Cunningham is actually up by 1 percentage point now. The New York Times Siena poll had him up by 3. We had a Gravis poll, which was with OAM, which is a very right-wing poll, only having Tillis up by 1. The Harper poll had him up by 2, so this is going to be a very close race. There's no denying that. But currently, I do believe that Cal Cunningham is favored in that race, and the Michigan polls too are showing very good signs. The Michigan polls aren't even, they're not even listed here because Biden is just up by so much. If we can actually, find those polls here. If we can find, here's the Michigan poll here. If you want to go to Michigan, Trump versus Biden, we can see that Biden's up by 8.6 percentage points here, which basically means that, if you do it according to the polls, Joe Biden's winning. He's winning Michigan by a likely margin, Pennsylvania by a likely margin, Florida by a likely margin, Wisconsin by a likely margin, North Carolina by a tilt margin, Arizona by a lean margin. And, the polls could completely be off, but Joe Biden is up by a lot more than Hillary Clinton was this time in 2016 and even late into 2016. So, again, I'll point this out. Joe Biden's remained a lot more steady than Donald Trump has. So that's another thing to note. If Joe Biden's going to fall, it's going to fall gradually, and it's going to take a lot of time for that to happen. So Donald Trump is not in a good position right now. This is mainly talking about the New York Times poll because the New York Times does have quite accurate polling. Just take a look at the betting odds right now. Those polling data, along with, what's happening right now in the world, are showing that the public is really not in favor of Donald Trump anymore in terms of his chances to win. Donald Trump was winning for quite a while by around, 9 to 10 percentage points here in terms of the betting odds. He's now plummeted from around 50 percentage points to 38 percentage points. Joe Biden's gone from around 42 percentage points up to 58 percentage points. This is completely crazy. This is what changed really rapidly. The polls haven't changed pretty rapidly. Joe Biden's consistently been up by a lot. But it's the fact that the betting odds, people are really turning in favor of the Democrats. If you go to this guy, Nate Cohen, on Twitter, he is kind of a pollster for the New York Times here. So it obviously says Michigan, Biden plus 11, Wisconsin, Biden plus 11, Pennsylvania, Biden plus 10, North Carolina, Biden plus 9, Arizona, Biden plus 7, Florida, Biden plus 6. And if you want to look at the Senate races, Arizona's Kelly's up by 9, which is actually quite an interesting fact here. Arizona, Kelly up 9 is McSally's best, tied for her best result since March. So that really shows you how toast she is. Michigan, Peters is up by 10, and North Carolina, Cal Cunningham is up by 3. In the governor's race, Cooper is up by 11 in the North Carolina governor's race. I do believe that race is pretty much safe at this point. I said it was likely a couple days ago, but I do believe that it is now safe. It says in many ways the poll is unchanged since October. The Democratic Party ID advantage remains at D+1, which makes sense, to be honest. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin are generally Democratic states. Arizona has a lot more Democrats now than it used to. Florida is pretty much 50-50 split. North Carolina, you don't mind advantaging Republicans. So that means, for the most part, it makes sense. Even if you want to make it a couple more points, Republican Democrats would still be winning quite easily. And it talks about the shift is mostly concentrated amongst white voters, among young and college-educated white voters. College-educated white voters is what's contributing to the suburban trends. The suburban trends are due to the college-educated white voters in these suburbs that are becoming a lot more Democrat than they used to be, and even a trend amongst non-college-educated white voters without a degree, which is in a group that Trump won by a lot. Virtually zero change among non-white voters, despite attention on racial issues, which is quite an interesting thing to note. The voters who don't back Trump and Biden do lean GOP by registration party ID, but they do, they are undecided for certain reasons. Trump approval among them is 29 to 56, so it's not to say, these undecided voters are going to easily break towards the GOP because, they really do not like Donald Trump. So you can even say that this this group of undecided voters is going to break more to Joe Biden. It says, and at the moment, there are limits to what Trump can hope to extract out of the electorate right now. 55% of registered voters said there was almost no chance they would support him. In terms of the individual states, I wouldn't spend too much time dwelling on each. At number equals 650 each, you'll get real noise. Maybe North Carolina's too Biden, maybe Arizona's too Trump. Totally possible, and that kind of noise is expected here. But taken together, the story is clear. So this is completely telling here. Basically, what you can see is that Donald Trump has tried to solidify his base. And he's done that by acting like 2016 Trump more often. We can see he kind of came back at that rally that he held in Oklahoma. Some people were saying it was kind of a loss, but now you can say it's kind of back. But he's pandering to his base. That's what he does best. And, how much more can he gain on top of that? Because his base is not the majority of the country. He did not win the vote of the majority of the country in 2016. And now you have a candidate who is, according to this poll at least, much more liked than Donald Trump. And you have the majority of people, 55% of registered voters, saying there's almost no chance they're going to support you. How do you expand on that base? Do you start the virtue signaling? Do you go further to the left? Do you, go to the popular belief and then abandon your base? It's a really hard situation for Donald Trump, because what we've seen before that wasn't seen under Obama, for example, is that he focuses a lot on his base, and his base will support him always. They'll donate, they'll turn out to vote, like he's had record turnout in the primaries. Obama didn't have that, but Obama had a majority of the support. He had a majority in approval rating for much of his re-election campaign, and this is the thing that Donald Trump doesn't have, and this is why I'm so not sure, but I think there's a very big chance that he loses because of this. He's pandering to a base, and in 2016 that worked because you had 2 terms of a Democratic presidency, and you have a Democratic candidate that is not very popular. It's not the same situation now. It is a referendum on you, and if you're pandering to a voter base that is 35 to 40% of the country, you're not going to be able to win. And unless Donald Trump can change this, I do think that it's unlikely that Donald Trump is going to win. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked down in the description. Join the mock gov that is linked down in the description, and also in the Discord server. We're going to be having a lot of fun in that. So again, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.